Okay, ready? Can you give us a few levels? Just say testing, testing.
Testing, testing.
Got it, I got it. Okay, cool. Sir, thanks again for coming and doing this for us. I really, really appreciate this. So, did you get a chance to look at the questions by any chance?
No, I didn't.
Okay, all right. Well, in as much detail as you can. First question is, how did you join the military
Oh,
and why?
okay. I had been a Franciscan brother for 7 years, and in the Franciscan order, after novitiate's like boot camp. You have several years of simple vows, they call it. It's just there's a time, and then you choose whether to take solemn vows or not. And I was the brother cook at the old mission Santa Barbara, in fact. And my spiritual advisors found me in the library. They had a terrific library there, and I was reading ancient history, particularly biblical history and things like that, books I had never had access to before. And he said, you need to go to college and not take solemn vows. So I didn't. I didn't take solemn vows. But after 7 years of a vow of poverty, I didn't have a penny, But I knew that I could go into the military and get the Korean Bill of Rights. This was during the Korean War. The year was 1953. And one of the brothers there had been a Marine in the Second World War in the Pacific. He was a seagoing Marine. In fact, he was on one of the big carriers that would have been in Pearl Harbor if they hadn't gone out on maneuvers for that day. And he talked about what he saw when he came back in, all the damage done. Well, anyway, so I wanted to go into the Marines, be like Brother Anthony, and go to sea school. I wanted those dress blues. When I joined the Marine Corps, I found out that ordinary Marines got dress greens, but you had to be special to get the dress blues. So I wanted the dress blues. And it was interesting because my drill instructor wanted to send me to cook and baker school. And I said, no, I didn't want to go to cook and baker school. And I think we must have fought for about 30 minutes. And he said, why in the hell don't you want to go to cook and baker school? I says, I don't want to commit culinary murder. And that struck him funny, I guess. So I said, oh, hell with it, you can go to sea school. And of course, I had no idea what would happen. But while I was at sea school, I was called out to this interview. And there was a board. I thought Captain Brannaman was part of the group, but it's kind of hazy. I didn't know much about it. But evidently I passed with flying colors and got the top security clearance. And my first assignment was the USS Curtis. So that's how it all happened. Thank you, Vince. I use the term culinary murder because it got me aboard the Curtis.
What was the selection process like?
A lot of it went on behind our back. It was top secret. And so we didn't really know the process later on, but all of our families told us later on, why were these people going around our neighborhood asking everybody questions? Did you do something wrong? Were you in trouble? No, I wasn't in trouble. I was following all the rules. And later on we found out that it was the FBI doing a research on, were we suitable candidates for the top secret clearance.
What were some of the tests that you had to go through? I heard there was like IQ tests and.
I don't remember much about that. Yeah, there were. Mostly I think they were oral tests. They would ask us different questions. A lot about our background. Of course, I was kind of fascinating because I was the only ex-monk in the group. Also, I was older. I was 25, where most of them were 18 and 19. So those were the two things that made me kind of standing out among all the rest. It doesn't make me any better. It just makes me different.
So you were a year younger than Brannaman then?
1 year.
Wow.
He's 81. I'm 80.
Wow. Alrighty. So getting aboard the Curtis, what was life like on the Curtis? Who were your friends? What did you guys do in your off time? Like,
Oh, wow. You got a unique guy again here. Unlike a lot of Marines, I had a lot of sailor friends too, naval friends, but I had a Marine friends too. And I didn't like to go to these honky-tonk bars. So whenever we'd stop at a different port, you know, I would organize a group and we'd go to restaurant hopping, particularly, you know, unique restaurants to that particular area. I remember when we were going to San Francisco, I organized Chow Down Chinatown, you know. And then one of my friends aboard ship was the ship's photographer, and which later on worked out real well, because most of the guys like country western music, you know, and that kind of stuff, or whatever the popular music was at that time, and I just happened to like classical music. And this photographer had a beautiful library of records of classical music, and then we were all philosophers up there. When he was not on duty as a photographer, he opened his lab to what we call the photo lab gang. There's about six or seven of us. 3 of us were Marines, the rest were sailors. And we tear the world apart and put it back together again. And we talked a lot of religion, you know, which interested me a lot. And also we made this motto that it was the trouble with most of the GIs, that the only difference between Liberty here and Liberty there was the name of the bartender. And so we were going to avoid that. So I was the organizer for all these restaurant trips.
Tell me, what was Chow in Chinatown? I mean, go through that. What was that?
Oh, it was going to a Chinese restaurant. We would pick out a restaurant that really kind of stood out to us in Chinatown and had a big Chinese meal. And of course, instead of following the usual menu, you know, you've been to a Chinese restaurant where you have A, B, C, and D. We'd each order something that we were interested in, or we thought we would be interested in. So we had a lot of food. Good grief, we ate well. Thank heavens we were Marines, and they would walk it off of us when we got back on duty.
Oh, there they are.
Yeah, we're here.
I wonder where you were.
He's got to tell his story. That's the most unique story.
I've heard.
Yeah. So,
one other question for you, or another question, not one more. But,
okay.
Would you mind relating, in again the greatest detail, one particular story about the camaraderie that you guys shared aboard the USS Curtis?
Yeah. One of the best friends was the barber. Jack Robinson. We became real close buddies. And later on, he was, when he became a civilian, he worked in sort of a quasi-missionary program in Mexico. It's called LAMP. And in fact, when he was assigned to Mexicali, it just happened I had a leave at that time. So I was still in the military, but this was after he was out. So I went with him to Mexicali, and it's kind of humorous. There wasn't a lot of places where he could rent a little apartment for himself and his new family. And he asked about hot and cold running water, and they said, "Pues sí, you know, it's hot in the summer and it's cold in the winter." So he learned to live with that. But anyway, it turned out over the years that he was in Mexicali, there was a nurse from Palo Alto that went down and did volunteer work at showing Mexican women how to give shots, and that's what LAMP did, was to get medicine to people who need it. Or unfortunately, the Mexicans have this culture that if a child is deformed, like a cleft palate, things like that, they hide them, or burned or something like that. So part of LAMP's job was find these kids and get them to Stanford, where doctors free would treat them. So I was on Liberty one time when he left Mexicali. I don't know how these Providence, I guess, or something. It was just that was the time I needed to be there. He was transferring from Mexico, and then he was going to go to Sacramento to work with the poor people in Sacramento. And he asked if would I like to come along with him, and I said, sure, why not? You know, I had nothing else to do. And so we stopped at Palo Alto, and we picked up this nurse to go with us to Sacramento. Well, it turned out that later on, I'd been working overseas. By that time I was a civilian too. I was working in the Pacific. I was on the last atom test at, hydrogen bomb test on Christmas Island. It was Operation Dominic. But then I'd been transferred to Eniwetok to the Pacific Missile Range. And so I was on a leave at this particular time and met this nurse. And then just a few years later, my, what do they call it, biological clock rang, you know. I'm getting too old for this. And so I came back to the mainland and I looked up this nurse. And 6 months later, we were married and Jack Robinson was best man.
Well, congratulations, that's a good story. I like that. I heard this, and I have this on camera, but
Okay.
what is the deal with these UFOs? Tell me about that.
There were some people that actually saw a light go, I don't know, it went over our ship or alongside our ship, and then suddenly changed directions and flew off into the distance. I did not see it, but I talked to a lot of people who did see it. And I know that the captain of the ship was very upset that it was put in the log of the ship, and he wanted it removed. And some say it was removed, others say no, it wasn't removed, but it was kind of reworded, so it was kind of ambiguous. And of course, there's been a lot of interest about that, but I don't know if it really happened. Did we really see it or not? I don't know that much about it, but I know something happened that really excited a lot of people.
Very nice. Alrighty. Now, tell me a story about Bravo Shot.
Oh boy!
If you're comfortable with
Oh sure. Oh yeah. Well, that was that was our first experience, of course, and we had been living this very idyllic life on the ship by that time, except when we were assigned to, you know, to transport the bomb to the test site. First test site was on an island with a tower, and so it was unique to all the other shots. But anyway, so when you were on duty, then you did your duty. But if you were not on duty, frequently we were allowed to go on Bikini Island, and there was an officers' club and an enlisted men's club on the island. And of course, most of us head for the lagoon. I got to tell you this part though, had nothing to do with the bikini. Come on, swimsuit. That was some Frenchman got that idea just from bikini. However, we didn't have any swimming trunks. Nobody thought to assign us any swimming trunks. So when we got on the beach, we just had our boxer shorts, khaki-colored boxer shorts. We used to roll them until there was just a 2-inch stripe around here to maximize the amount of sun, you know. And that's how we would swim in the lagoon. Well, then when the shot came, we were told that we had to all early in the morning, before sunrise, early in the morning, we all had to form on the back deck, what do you call it, the aft deck there. And we formed in formation. We were in, what do you call it, khakis, not khakis, fatigues. We were in our fatigues. Then we were ordered, you know, in formation, we were ordered to turn our backs in the direction of the shot. We were to sit on the deck, close our eyes tightly, and press our eyes into our elbows like this. And we were to stay there until we were told to you know, whatever order was going to be given. But we had to stay that way. It seemed like an eternity, you know, and we heard the countdown, 5, 4, 3, so on and so forth. All of a sudden, it said 1, 0, and then there was this bright, bright light. And it was so bright, the light actually went through the flesh of the arm and through our closed eyelids. And I guess you've heard the story. We could see the shadowy outline of the bones in our arms. And that lasted for just a few seconds, then it stopped. And Captain Brannaman and the sergeants, they had goggles, and they were watching this. And they were making remarks about it. He says, one of them was, look at that thing, it's boiling. You know, and of course we want to know what's boiling. Here we are, locked with our faces stuck in our elbows. You know, and finally it dawned on them that it was okay for us to see what was going on, and so they let us stand up and turn around, and then we saw this beautiful, by that time, the white cloud, you know, mushroom. It was an enormous thing, you know. And it was very, very, very beautiful. But we didn't see we were unable to see the fireball. Later on shots, then of course we got to see the fireball and see the whole thing, but not for Bravo. We didn't see all the detail. But we did see the shock wave coming, and just the ocean was flattened in this big arc, just flattened, and then when it got to the ship, then there was tremendous boom, and you know, and you kind of knocked off your feet, but pretty close to it. You know, it's a loud boom, a terrifically loud boom, and when the shock wave passed us, and then we were ordered below because the Curtis on purpose was stationed where the fallout would hit us, and they'd had these big pipes put along all the decks to sprinkle it, you know, with a sprinkler system to wash down all the decks of this fallout, and it was supposed to work perfectly, you know, so that within a day it would all wash away. But it seemed that some of the ash, particularly the coral ash, was sticky, and it took them 3 days to wash down the ship. So we were confined below decks for an awful long time before we were allowed back on the deck again. And that was an old ship. It was built for the First World War, so the accommodations down below weren't too comfortable for a long time.
I've heard that before. I've heard that. Describe the feeling of seeing, whether it was Bravo shot or any of the latter bombs. What was the feeling that went through your head when you saw those things?
Except for the shock wave and seeing our bones, it was beautiful. It was really a beautiful sight. It didn't dawn on us how bad it was until I think I've told you the story of the scientists came on board our ship, and we went to sea, you know, before the shot, and we were supposed to go back into the lagoon that morning, and offload these guys back to their camp. Their camp didn't exist anymore; it was gone. So these poor guys had to stay aboard ship, and one of the scientists gave a class. And I forget what all the class was about, but this thing seared in my mind and changed the whole atmosphere as far as I was concerned. He said, "You saw the effects of the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki." He said, "Those were very imperfect bombs. You know, they were brand new." He said that they were 20% effective, those atom bombs. That it was the detonation was controlled so that 20% of mass was converted to energy. 1954, it was up to 80% conversion, so it was already that much bigger. And that was simply the blasting cap for the hydrogen bomb. What they do is they pack hydrogen around it, and they can be an infinite amount of hydrogen, and then that would light that, and that would create ever bigger. And of course, Bravo was the biggest hydrogen bomb ever detonated.
And that was the biggest hydrogen bomb detonated by the United States, period, wasn't it?
That's right. Well, as far as we know, it was the biggest one of all because it was 5 times bigger than what we intended it to be. It was.
Could you reiterate that?
Excuse me?
Could you reiterate that?
You mean? Well,
just for the camera. So I mean.
Okay. Yeah, they expected a bomb of a certain size. I forget now how many millions of kilotons, millions of tons of TNT, and it was 5 times bigger than that. It caused much more damage. They didn't expect all that damage. You know, they didn't expect all that camp to be destroyed. They didn't expect the islanders of Rongelap and I think it was, I forget, there was two groups of people had to be taken aboard ship and put in under showers to get the ash off. And to this day, I think they have to come back once a year to be tested for the effects of fallout.
Were any of those guys killed?
There were Japanese sailors were killed. There was a fishing boat, and they came under it, and their whole, I think it was tuna fish, had to be rejected, and yes, they died from the radiation. None of us then showed any effects. But yes, the natives of Rangilat did show the effect. They had burns on their arms because the kids thought it was snow. They'd heard about snow and all this ash coming down. They thought it was snow, so they went out and played in it, until it started burning, and then they realized it wasn't snow, because snow's not supposed to burn.
Exactly. So you said that the bomb was beautiful.
Yeah.
Would you go into detail about what
Okay.
that was like?
When a bomb goes off, it creates a fireball, and that fireball radiates. It's like I heard, it boils, and it's every color of the rainbow in that. And then as it goes up, it's rolling like this. It's from the inside and around. As it goes up, then ice crystals. It gets way above the clouds. I forget now how high, but thousands and thousands of feet. Then ice crystals start forming, and then cascade around, and then it gets more and more, and then all of a sudden the fireball cools enough so that there's nothing but this big mushroom cloud it's not pure white. To me, it was kind of a creamy color, but it was white, and really quite beautiful. Of course, it's beautiful up there, but what it did down here is a total different story.
What was the light like?
What
was the feeling going through your head when you saw that, or when the flash went off?
Well, it's extremely bright. It's much brighter than the sun. If you get a chance, I have some goggles that I brought. I don't know, she's pretty wrapped up. Carrie has them right now. But if you get a chance sometime today, take those goggles on, and I hope it's not too cloudy, and put them on and look at the sun, and there'll be a little green ball, but yet when the bomb goes off, it's as bright as day. When I had goggles, you put the goggles, even at that, you're supposed to close your eyes. And this bright light hits you, and then it lasts for a couple of seconds, and then it goes away, and then you can open your eyes and look. And while the fireball is going up, you have to keep the goggles on. It's still too bright to look at. But then when the fireball begins to cool and you can't quite see it anymore, then you take the goggles off, and you don't need them after that.
Wow. So Bravo shot happened at night then?
No, it happens just before dawn.
Just before dawn. Okay. So just out of curiosity, what were some of the ramifications of telling people what you were doing?
Well, we were sworn to secrecy for 7 years. We were to tell nobody, nothing about what we had done, and most of us didn't tell anybody at all until I got a phone call from Keith Cundy about our first reunion, and then we find out that the secret was out. It was, we could talk about it now, but still, when we went to the museum at MCRD, there was nothing about the Curtis Marines. And we asked the director there, how come? He says, well, it's only Marines that went through MCRD. And I said, we all did. And Captain Branham, unfortunately, was there, and he laughed. He says, well, the reason that you know nothing about it is because of this wall of top secret secrecy. Whenever the Curtis ship was involved, it ceased to exist. It went off the books, they call it. We did not exist until until the operation was over and we sailed back again. And so there was nothing for her to know. But of course, by that time, she could find the information. But why would she think to look for it? But and then she put on the exhibit for the Curtis Marines, because we were all MCRD Marines.
Excellent. So here's a question. if you could be given the chance to go back in time right now and watch Bravo shot all over again, would you do it?
That's like my wife asking me about a bullfight. She says, "How can a gentleman like you like a bullfight?" But I love bullfights. I would. Yes, I would. And just like after college, I got an opportunity to go out to Christmas Island as a civilian. I went. I know we're involving, but somebody's got to do it. And the U.S. has to be the best at it. We're worried about Iran right now. We should tell Iran exactly what we told the Russians. If you do something, Buster, we'll do it too. And we got a bigger bomb than you. They don't know what a hydrogen bomb is. They'll get an atom bomb, but that's a firecracker compared to a hydrogen bomb.
Very well put. Very well put. All right, we have about 5 minutes here.
Okay.
So, just real quick, in brief, what was life like after the Curtis? I mean, did you deal directly with certain ailments that a lot of these guys suffer from?
I have been, the only thing I've been having is melanomas. I got a lot of them. And 5 of them have been removed that were real cancers. But no, I haven't. Although every time I get very, very sick, I says, boy, is this the big C? You know, because so many of us have, not only do they have the cancers, but the strange cancers in their kids and grandkids. I don't, as far as I know, I've escaped. And why? I've got this, what do they call it, survivor syndrome? Why me? Why don't I have it? It really bothers me. And
But you say but do you have kids yourself?
yes, I have. In fact, I have our first grandson.
Oh, congratulations!
Yeah, thanks.
And none of them,
As far as I know, nothing that I could say. Well, yeah, this comes from my older genes.
Already. All right, and if you could relive your whole military experience again, would you do anything different?
No, because I had a fantastic career in the Marine Corps. Because after the Curtis, although they sent me out to Barstow, the supply depot in Barstow, I got embassy duty. And there's nothing better in this wide, wide world than embassy duty. I have to tell you, from my standpoint, while all these other Marines, in fact, I used to be jealous of the Marines on board ship because they'd all had dates, and they knew how to date a girl. I didn't know how to date a girl, you know. What does a monk know about dating? So I really envy those guys. Well, I got my new assignment, just a few months at Barstow. In fact, I didn't even get to summer, thank heavens. And I got this to report at Fox Company in Washington, D.C. Well, it's actually Quantico, Virginia. And Fox Company is at the FBI Training Center. That's where we were billeted, right there. And we were trained by the FBI in preparation for going overseas. Well, my mother gave me the name of a lady that worked for the State Department, you know, and of course I put it off for a couple of weeks. You know, who wants to? I should have been a little more brave on that one. But anyway, so I went to meet her at her apartment, and wow, I was exposed to a whole new world. At that time, there were 12 intelligent, good-looking women for every male in the city of Washington, D.C. And while we were talking, this line of women were going through her apartment for all kinds of, you know, do you have sugar? Do you have this, that? You know, there was a man in the building. And so from then on, I was the liaison between our detachment and the women in D.C. And so I didn't have to look for dates anymore. You know, they were already looking for me. And when we got to Paris, my first assignment was in Paris. And of course, you know, that's the city of love. The French call it the city of light, but we call it the city of love. And my second night there, I had a date. And I should have been suspicious. I don't know if you know, there's some music called Carmina Burana.
Oh, yeah.
She was playing Carmina Burana. Says, this gal's got something in the back of her mind.
Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
Oh, funny. Only in France.
Yeah, only in France, exactly.
All right, and last question. And I hate to cut this so short because I want to ask you something more, but What was the highlight of this reunion?
Oh boy. I won't know for a little while. I'll have to really digest it. A lot will depend on how well our banquet goes tonight. That usually seems to add everything up. We've been to the Blue Angels before in one of our reunions here, so that was not a novelty. The rest of it has been pretty much standard operational procedure.
What was it like seeing all these guys again?
Oh, it's great. We're family. We and their wives, or our wives, are family. We really feel family, and we think in terms of family. We didn't have that feeling before in the first reunion. There was a little beginning of it. We were just reacquainting ourselves now. But over the years, we've gone closer and closer and closer, especially when so many have died. And I always say, when I die, I'm going to die a much better death than most people, because I know I'll be in the prayer of all these fellow Marines. Because those guys that have died, we sort of emotionally, whether we're Christians or not, we're supporting them, and they're not cut off. They're not. Well, there'll be a table dedicated to them tonight, and we really mean it. They're still a part of us, and we're a part of them.
If you had one chance to talk to the Marines that had passed away that you served us, what would you say to them?
We'll never forget you. Semper Fi.
Deep. Mr. Sones, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
And thanks for the hat.
Thank you.
Yeah.